Well, good Friday evening. Thank you for joining me here on 13 News Now Plus. If you're watching, that's because you're interested in this weekend storm that we're watching. And things are just starting to come together. It's really going to get going as we head into, say, midday tomorrow. But we've definitely been watching it all week long. And now we're here Friday night. And the cold air is here, and here's the latest on our winter storm. Of course, we have the weather impact alert that'll go into effect tomorrow afternoon and continue into Sunday. As you know, it's been a cold week here in Hampton Roads. Very cold air. Temperatures in the 20s out there right now, and we have dry air in place. And that dry air is going to do a few things. It's going to inhibit some of the snow off towards the north, but it's also going to make a fluffier snow. So what does that mean? That means higher snow ratios. We'll get into that a little bit here as we go through the next several minutes. Also looking at a wide range in snow totals. It's almost going to be a backwards sort of situation because this is going to be a coastal low. This is going to be a nor'easter that is going to have nor'easter effects with it as well. But southern areas are going to see some of the highest snowfall totals. So we're thinking south side and especially northeastern North Carolina will see the higher snowfall. While northern areas might not see much at all as you head up closer to Richmond or through the northern neck or northern parts of the eastern shore of the peninsula, middle peninsula, you're kind of stuck in the middle. And I think it's going to be a situation where the southern tip of the peninsula gets a whole lot more snow than as you head up towards Williamsburg and James City County and up towards New Kent County, again closer to Richmond. And part of that is because of the dry air, which we'll talk about. And since it is a nor'easter, a coastal storm, we're going to see windy conditions, especially at the coast. Wouldn't be surprised to see a wind gust close to 60 miles per hour along the Outer Banks. And since this is a nor'easter, a coastal storm, we'll have those northeast winds. That's where the term nor'easter comes from. And that will result in some tidal flooding. If you've lived around Hampton Roads for any length of time, or if you're new here, northeast winds push the water up into the Chesapeake Bay and the tributaries, and that creates flooding, especially during times of high tide. And it's especially susceptible this weekend because we also have a full moon, and that gives us some higher tides as well. So we'll go through all of those. This is a pretty large storm. These are the winter storm warnings here in the pink and in sort of this purple color here, winter weather advisories, and you can see all of southern Virginia under a winter storm warning, the entire state of North Carolina and South Carolina under winter storm warnings, and that includes the Outer Banks, Dare County as well. And the northeastern parts of Georgia here are also under that winter storm warning. A little bit closer view, all of Hampton Roads, all of our viewing area over the air, includes the eastern shore, middle peninsula, peninsula, south side of northeastern North Carolina under that winter storm warning. That's where we're looking at the bigger issues with accumulating snow and the winds. And then once you get up here into New Kent County, Dinwiddie County, north of Petersburg, up towards Richmond and Henrico County, towards the northern neck, Northumberland County, we are under winter weather advisories. Still could be some issues, but not as severe and not as, the impacts not as strong as what we're looking at here through the rest of the area. And again, I really think south side and northeastern North Carolina will be the big areas that see some of the heaviest snow, especially along the Albemarle Sound. And there are a lot of other advisories and warnings out there. If you've been watching on television, it's been scrolling across your screen at the bottom, and it's going to be there throughout the day Saturday and probably into Sunday as well. We also have a cold weather advisory, wind chills, 5 below to 5 above. We have wind advisories. We actually here through coastal areas have high wind warnings up to the eastern shore, Matthews County, Pocosin, Hampton, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Virginia Beach, down through Currituck County. That's where we're expecting some of the highest gusts. And at one point, it even looked like potentially blizzard conditions. Not sure we're going to get quite the heavy enough snow to reduce those visibilities to reach official blizzard criteria. So we have the high wind warning that is up along the Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic Ocean. And even inland, we still have wind advisories all the way back to Franklin, Gates County, James City County, Williamsburg, York County, Gloucester County, Middlesex County, and up along the northern neck, and even mainland Dare County, Outer Banks Dare County, under a high wind warning. So here's the system that is just starting to get together, at least part of it. This is the upper level support, and you might hear us a lot of times talk about, surface lows and upper level lows and how they sort of come together, and the energy can sometimes transition like we're going to see with this system. But that upper level low already causing the snow to break out here across western Virginia, western North Carolina, and some mixed precipitation down here through the upstate of South Carolina. Now, it's still fairly light, and I have been watching some of the ground reports come in, and it's just mainly some light snow. That's sort of the upper level support. The main low just starting to form. This is the one that is going to be the nor'easter. This is the one that you might have heard the term bomb cyclone being thrown out. This is the nor'easter that is going to rapidly develop off the southeast coast, and it's going to be over these warm Gulf Stream waters. So that's sort of going to help fuel this system as it develops here. And that main low right now is just pushing off the coast of Georgia here near Savannah, and it's going to intensify and work its way off towards the north and east. Now that we finally have a surface low for the computers to lock onto, that's going to help with the forecast as we go forward. And there's still, as I mentioned, some uncertainties as to the exact track. But we do think it's going to pass here just off the coast, close enough that the cold air stays in place. Might see a little warm air moving in through the Outer Banks of Dare County initially, so things will likely start out as some rain, but as it intensifies and pulls in more cold air, I think we will see even a changeover all the way down towards Cape Hatteras. And it's very rare to see snowfall forecasts all the way down towards Wilmington, but that certainly is potentially there as well. Right now, cloudy skies through the area. Do have a little bit of some return showing up off the coast, and we've been watching some of these light snow returns show up on live radar just out towards our west. I'll put it in motion here over the last 3 hours, and mostly it's been light snow, but you can see we start to get into some of those darker blues here along the state line out towards Lake Gaston and Carr Lake. We are seeing, a little bit of that snow, and I was looking earlier over towards Vance and Warren counties, and we were getting some snowfall reports of snow making it down towards the ground. Right now it's so light just west of Emporia out towards Mecklenburg County and points westward that I don't think it's likely making it down towards the ground just yet, because the atmosphere is still very dry. And that dry atmosphere is going to give us some trouble, I think, for northern areas as far as the snowfall amounts that we're looking at going forward. So let's time it all out here with Futurecast. 8 o'clock, cloudy skies. Futurecast doing a pretty good job showing, again, some of that light snow out here towards the lakes along the state line. Cloudy through the remainder of the evening. Could be a quick little snowflake or a snow flurry in a few spots by 11 o'clock. Temperatures in the 20s. And as we head towards tomorrow morning, we're in the upper teens and low 20s. And for the most part, still not looking at any snow. Maybe a couple of flurries or a few snowflakes, but it really starts to get going down here along the Albemarle Sound in mainland Dare County. And as we go through the morning, notice how that snow starts to work its way northward. Darker blues indicating heavier snow. This is a sign of the model that we're going to have some of these heavier snow bursts come down, and with temperatures in the 20s, we haven't been above freezing since late Tuesday night, I think it was. So we're, almost 70 hours or more now that we've been below freezing. We didn't get above freezing today either. And because of that, as the snow starts coming down, if it's in some of those heavier bursts, it is going to stick to the roads. Even the treated roads, they should be better, but your neighborhood roads, they haven't been treated, secondary roads, things like that. So I think, by midday, maybe a little bit after, if this run of Futurecast is a little bit faster, we'll start to have issues out on the roadways of North Carolina, and then those heavy bands work their way northward as we go through the afternoon. Notice temperatures still below freezing, with the exception down towards Kill Devil Hills, and I think south of there, likely starting out as a little bit of rain. But notice that the darkest of the blues, for the most part, stay south side and into northeastern North Carolina. Briefly, they make their way back inland up towards Wakefield, Newport News, James City County, York County, Gloucester, some of the darker blues, but not much up along the eastern shore. And as we go through the latter part of the afternoon and the evening, again, it gets a little bit lighter, darker blues, heavier snow, stays mostly south side and northeastern North Carolina, even into the evening, and then really starts to wind down in northern spots. That's that dry air that's being pulled into it. And while the dry air creates fluffier snow, it also tends to melt the snow, or technically, it evaporates. As the snow falls and the air is very dry, it basically evaporates. So that's why I'm thinking, some of these northern spots, this is where we have some of the biggest trouble in the snowfall forecast, and we'll mention that here in just a moment. But the heaviest snows down through eastern North Carolina. And notice, this is Sunday morning. This is the latest run of Futurecast. If it is 50 miles off, 50 miles too far east, well, where does that put? That puts that heavy snow back closer to the coastline. If it's off just 100 miles, which isn't, a tremendous amount, as we're looking from Friday night all the way into Sunday morning, if it's just 100 miles off, then that heavy, heavy snow is here on shore. So again, there's still some wiggle room here as we get into Sunday morning. It's going to be cold Sunday morning. Temperatures in the teens, wind chills near or 5 degrees below zero. So a cold start to the day on Sunday, and only 27 degrees into the afternoon. So our official snowfall forecast is calling for the highest snowfall down through northeastern North Carolina around the Albemarle Sound. We're going 8 to 12 inches. I think 8 to 10 with some pockets of 12 is what we're thinking here. 4 to 8 through much of South Side, especially the cities of the South Side. Once you get back into areas of Isle of Wight County, Surrey County, Sussex County, Southampton County, might be closer to 2 to 4. Peninsula, depending on where you live on the peninsula, could be anywhere from not much of anything to several inches, as the peninsula is really going to be where that dry air and that cutoff line is. You can see here on the eastern shore, just for an example, northern Northampton County in our 1 to 2 band, southern tip there down towards Cape Charles in the 4 to 8 inch band. So that's one of these areas, and this is one of the concerns with this storm, is there's going to be a sharp northern cutoff of the snow. And it might be a situation where northern parts of the peninsula, again, don't get much of anything. You get down towards Hampton and Cosin, southern Newport News, East End, it's a lot more snow than up near the city park. So again, a lot of variation over a very short or close area. And that's the concern with that dry air being pulled in on the north side. So this is the area where we have the greatest risk of that dry air coming in and limiting the snow totals. And yeah, this is where we're less confident in the forecast, to be honest with you, and to be transparent, because if that dry air nose works its way a lot farther south, then even Richmond might not get much. And some of the models are saying that. Some of the long-range models and even medium-range models are still calling for quite a bit of snow. So it's a really weird situation watching these models, as it's been a long time, and I'm not even sure if I've ever seen the models not have a good enough grasp on a system as much as they have with this one. It's been really interesting. So here's some of the models. You always hear us talk about the American and the European. So we have the NAM, that is the North American model. So that is another American model, but it's a short range model. It doesn't go out 300 hours like the GFS and the European. And you can see it's calling for a lot of snow, double-digit snows across much of Hampton Roads. And this is the medium range or the medium resolution North American model. I'll be honest, the high resolution is calling for almost no snow here. And it's very rare for the same model, just at a different resolution, to be that much different, because the difference in the resolution is 3 kilometer and 12 kilometer. And that's getting into a little bit of the science there and some of the nerdiness of us meteorologists. But to see the same model be that much different, that's very, very unusual. We'll see little variations, but usually not that much. So I think the North American model, at least this run of it, is a little overdone. There's something weird going on just with that model, to be quite honest with you. The American model, the European model, again, not identical, but same general idea. Notice the lighter snow amounts up towards Richmond, an inch, maybe. And then you can see here, from West Point to Norfolk, you go to 2 to 6 to 9 in Chesapeake and almost 10 in Elizabeth City. The European, not quite as aggressive. And we'll get more model runs coming in tonight, and there's still a lot of questions as to exactly how far that dry air works its way in. So that's why, we put ranges on our forecasts. These numbers that come in here, from the models, those are point specific, and, they change quite a bit. If you have an app on your phone, I'm sure you've been seeing over the last several days, it waffles back and forth. That's because the apps on your phone are just basically a model. And you can see, depending on what model your app is using, you might get totally different numbers. If you're using an app from us or from another weather provider, or you're using the native app that came on your phone, If it's using the North American model, you might be seeing this, while if you're using, or that model is using the European as its basis, you're seeing something totally different. New model run comes in and the forecast is totally different. So that's why the apps are, they're useful in a lot of ways, certainly, but we really have a long way to go before they can, really match what we do here. And yeah, that's just my way of saying, yes, keep us around and we need our jobs. But again, the apps aren't there yet and they won't be for a while. This is another model. The graph, this is our own in-house model that we use for Futurecast. You'll notice those numbers very similar to what we are forecasting. They're a little bit higher in some spots, but the general idea is, again, northern spots not getting much, higher amounts south side into northeastern North Carolina. So that's one part of the storm. Mentioned it is a nor'easter, so it is going to have winds with it. It's going to be intensifying off our coast and intensifying rapidly. Again, you might have heard of bomb cyclone, bombogenesis. That's a rapidly developing system, and looks like this system will be doing that. So by midday Saturday, we're looking at wind gusts 20, 30, 35 miles per hour or so, and those winds will continue to increase as we go into Saturday evening. So snow's coming down. Could have reduced visibilities with blowing snow, which will also make it a lot harder to measure the snow if it's light and fluffy and blowing around and drifting in your yard. And even as we head into late Saturday night and Sunday morning, we're looking at wind gusts, 40, 45, 50, 55 miles per hour out of the northeast and eventually over towards the north. So that is going to cause some issues with tidal flooding. And again, this is Sunday morning, 15 degrees, 45 mile per hour winds. Those are brutally cold wind chills. So it is going to be very, very cold Sunday morning. Even into the afternoon, still looking at wind gusts over 30, 35 miles per hour. So it is just going to be a raw day on Sunday. So then we look towards the tides. The good news with this system being such a fast mover is that we're not going to have 2 or 3 or 4 high tide cycles that allow the water to build up. It's really only going to be one high tide cycle, and that's Sunday morning that we see the highest tides. By then, the winds will start to shift around, systems exiting, so by even the Sunday evening high tide, those water levels will be going down. But here's Sewell's Point. This is the gauge that we use to represent all of Hampton Roads. Of course, we have other gauges around the area, but this is the one that goes back, we have the longest history for. It's where we measured the tidal flooding with the 1933 hurricane, with Isabel, with Ash Wednesday storm, a classic nor'easter. So that is what, is the gauge. And we're going for moderate tidal flooding. And moderate tidal flooding begins at 5.5, and we're going 5.6 Sunday morning around 8:35. So yeah, there'll be some issues, not the biggest tide, certainly. The one concern that has been brought up about these tide levels coming up is that water, going over roadways. If you know some of the low-lying areas through parts of Norfolk, you know that whenever you get those tide levels coming up, it puts the water on the road. Well, now that water is going to be coming on the road Sunday morning when it's 15 degrees. So that is going to cause some issues. Is that water going to freeze and create a lot of issues around the area? And Lynn Haven Inlet, there around the Lesnar Bridge, major tidal flooding is expected Sunday morning around 8:23, 5.9 feet. Higher up, or upper parts of the rivers as you work up the James towards Yorktown, not looking as big of an issue with this system. So that's certainly good news. Although the winds will still likely impact the Jamestown, Scotland ferry, I don't think the water levels will be an issue. But we know that the water levels and the wind will be an issue for the ferries down along the Outer Banks, as Duck is expected to get 7-foot water levels, which is around 6:49 in the morning on Sunday, and that's considered major tidal flooding. And earlier forecast was 7.1, so we're talking about an inch or 2 difference, but that would put it in the top 5 highest tides registered there at Duck Pier. So, this is still going to be a significant storm for the Outer Banks, and talking about snowfall, that doesn't happen nearly as much along the Outer Banks as it does in other areas. So let's get into the forecast. Thompson Creek Window Company Skyview right now, it is cloudy, already down to 26 degrees. Winds coming in out of the north at 7 miles per hour and socked in the 20s, teens, 18 right now. Wallops Island, 25, Wakefield, 23, Chesapeake already, 28 in Edenton, 29 in Manio. And we'll see temperatures down to about 20 degrees tonight. Clouds on the increase, stray flurry possible, winds starting to pick up out of the northwest, 10 to 15 miles per hour. And tomorrow we have our weather impact alert going into effect during the afternoon. 25 degrees, snow developing around midday, a little bit earlier in North Carolina, a little later in northern spots. Winds picking up out of the northwest, 10 to 20, gusting up to 30. And then as we get into Saturday night, we've got the snow, frigid 15 degrees, wind chills 5, maybe 10 below zero. It is going to be bitterly cold Saturday night into Sunday morning. Wind switching around towards the north, and that will cause some issues with the tidal flooding as we get into Sunday. The snow will be early Sunday morning. We'll look for that clearing into the afternoon, but still windy and cold, 27 degrees. That takes you through the weekend. It's not going to warm up quickly after this moves through. 35 and mostly sunny Monday, 39 Tuesday, 41 on Wednesday. So we do see those temperatures going up, and it's been quite a while since we've seen temperatures in the 40s, but 4 inches, 5 inches, 6 inches more of snow on the ground, it's not going to go away immediately. So if there's that much snow, and we're hopeful that it is for our forecast, but of course it is going to have impacts, well into Monday. That snow is not going to be gone off the secondary roads, your neighborhood roads, Monday, maybe not even Tuesday or even into Wednesday. Temperatures around 40 degrees, maybe some showers as we head towards the end of the week. So that's sort of a look at the forecast once again. Let me back up all the way here to the beginning and just kind of give you a little bit of a recap and what our forecast is going for here, this other button here, and just kind of give you that recap again. Here's the latest, looking at very cold and dry air that's in place. Wide range in snow totals from north to south, with the south side of northeastern North Carolina getting the heaviest snowfall amounts, and it's going to be windy, especially along the coast with tidal flooding. I'm 13 News Now meteorologist Evan Stewart. We'll be here throughout the weekend. We've got our team of meteorologists. We've got 7 meteorologists that are going to be working here as we go through the weekend. Of course, tomorrow morning, we're going to have Taylor Stephenson in. During the afternoon, it's going to be myself, Tim, and Hunter. We'll have Julie Martin, who's going to be helping us. You might remember Julie from the Weather Channel. She now works for our parent company out of Atlanta. So she's going to be reporting live for us. We've got Cheryl Nelson, who's filled in a few times. You might remember Cheryl from her time here in Hampton Roads. So she'll be here as we head into the day tomorrow. And then into Sunday morning, it's going to be Taylor and Craig. And then as we go into the afternoon, Hunter on Sunday. And of course, we'll be here to help walk you through the storm. That's what we do. We have the weather impact alert issued it on Tuesday, and our goal is to help keep you safe through the weekend. For now, meteorologist Evan Stewart, join us at 11 o'clock for 13 News Now at 11.